Hi everyone, thank you very much for coming on today. If I click that button, what can you see? Can you see the full screen of my presentation? Or do you see the little split view with notes on it? Sorry, I just told everyone to mute yourself. Maybe someone unmute and tell me.
I don't see anything at all.
Oh, you can't see anything? Ah, right, let me try again.
Yeah, I can see the presentation.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Okay, cool. So today we're going to talk about why AI keeps choosing the same brands. So this is a little bit different to just getting mentioned. It's why it might keep mentioning the same people, but we're kind of going to cover over a bit of old ground and a bit of new ground. So this is part one of a 4-part series I'm doing about the agentic web, because the agentic web is what is coming, and it is coming faster than I thought, with Google's announcements. Because I don't know if you've heard that just very recently, maybe the day before yesterday, Google have unveiled what they're doing to their search, and they're saying it's the biggest change in how Google search will look in the last 25 years, since they started. And yeah, it's all just going to be AI. It's going to be sorry, that's me also got to let other people in. Admit one guest. So yeah, they're planning things like, but I also want to still see you. So let me just move that to there. Cool. They are planning things like extended AI overviews when you ask a question. Fine, kind of saw that coming. But a lot more you can set up your own agent, so you can ask it to go up and keep an eye on something and just report back to you when something changes, so you don't need to go to the website to see it change. They are suggesting that they are going to have very interactive experiences in search results. So an example that I saw was explained by Google was that if you are asking a question about a black hole in space, it would tell you something and then it would show you a picture, and then you'd say, oh, but what happens when that star moves around there or something? And so it would just show you an animated picture and tell you, well, this is how it is. And if you said, well, yeah, but my mind works better if I see it as a bar chart, then it would show you a bar chart, not for a black hole. But it's that idea that they will just serve up whatever information suits your conversation in whatever form. It's not just text. They're going to be making interactive experiences. They're also going to let you make your own dashboards, so you can create your own healthy eating plan or exercise regime or whatever from all this, just all in Google without you going to websites. So yeah, I'm actually hopefully later going to record a podcast about that, because that's just massive. We've been getting clients prepared for a few months about how will your business operate when it's not getting visitors on it from Google. What can you do to build up, in the most basic sense, build up your mailing list now? But they've got various features that you want people to get a bit hooked on and keep coming back to use, rather than just be reliant on incidental traffic from Google every day. And we're talking websites that get over 2 million visitors a day. So big, busy websites that are reliant on Google traffic. And that is, now Google will just be able to go and get the snippets and feed them back to you. But reassuringly, so this isn't what I was going to talk about, but it's all just so current and relevant. It is all part of it, and that Google have just made these announcements. But also, talking to friends this morning, they were all like, oh, and who don't work in the web and don't have websites, they were all like, oh, no, I still want to click on the links. I still want to read it for myself. And if you're researching something, or when my son's doing his GCSEs, he's going to want to go to the actual website and read it and research it properly, or A-levels or whatever. So hopefully it is a case of the tech bros just being so wrapped up in their little bubble, they're a bit ahead of the game of what the people actually want. Because I think that happened with ChatGPT shopping, because last year OpenAI rolled out shopping, so ChatGPT could do your shopping for you, and no one used it. So in March they rolled it back again, because the people just weren't ready for it yet. And it's so easy that you live and breathe AI, because it's everywhere on LinkedIn and in what we're learning about and what we're talking about. But maybe the rest of the world, the normal people who aren't working in it, aren't quite as ready for it yet. But perhaps if Google are doing it, that will make them get ready for it, because Google is so much more mainstream than someone starting to use Claude. Anyway, that's my little preamble bit. So anyway, but today we are talking about, in this 4-part series, we're going to go on to how your website technically needs to be able to be visited by robots, and what websites will be looking like in a couple of years' time, and how the whole thing is evolving. But today we're talking about the difference between being mentioned once and becoming a trusted recommendation. I think ChatGPT is actually really good at image generation, and I've gone off OpenAI big time in the last few months, and it's all about Claude and Anthropic. But if you want an image generated, ChatGPT, I quoted a client half a day's design work this morning, or yesterday I quoted it, and this morning I was like, oh, I bet ChatGPT could do that. And it did it in seconds and saved the client half a day's work. And I wasn't afraid to tell them that, because I want to tell them that if we can be efficient for them. But what do you notice wrong with this image? In this image, ChatGPT has someone is sat behind ChatGPT with the same arm as him, tapping the keyboard whilst he is leaning on this elbow. So anyway, he didn't quite nail that, but generally ChatGPT is good for images. So even though I just like waffled all that stuff, I'm Lisa. A lot of you I know already. You've been to other things like this. Some of you are new, so hi, nice to meet you. I've been making websites for over 20 years, and I run an award-winning web development agency. We're based just outside Bristol. I speak at events, I talk about all things web, and I've taught SEO for a very long time. I also founded a while ago a not-for-profit to help people find the best web developer for their project. And from that role, I was asked to represent the industry in discussions with the EU about online privacy reform. So just very, very passionate about the internet, and also have worked in it for a really, really long time. This says, please do make sure I sign up to my mailing list, but you are if you are here. But do look me up on LinkedIn and Instagram. Tending to go on LinkedIn a bit more lately than Instagram. But that's another talk for another day. But yeah, come and find me on there. So a lot of the common AI advice, I say common because it's the main stuff, but I don't see it everywhere quite as detailed as I have done in a previous talk, which if you haven't seen that previous talk, just talking to Anne, and she was on that one, I think. But if you haven't seen the previous one, I'll send a link around to where you can watch it, because it goes through everything in that checklist in a lot of detail. It's kind of this is what you do. This is tick these things off, make sure you're doing these things. And is that useful? Yes. Is it enough? It's arguably what I've realized now after doing that talk a few months ago even, and sort of looking at the bigger picture, is that actually maybe I need to stress more the bigger picture. So those are all the things you tick off. But today is about just helping you understand the main thing that you're working towards. So you're not working towards just being mentioned, you're working towards being chosen repeatedly. And the reason this has just gone up 1,000,000% in importance is because of the changes that Google has just mentioned. So SEO was about retrieval, about going off and finding the right page that matched someone's search and bringing back that page. AI is about confidence, and it's about it's confidence in you. It's confidence in your business, in your organization. So search engines would ask, which page is most relevant? Okay, which of these pages of all these ones on the internet is the most relevant for what this person is looking for? But AI is increasingly asking, which brand am I safest recommending? And the thing we've always got to remember is that AI wants to get the answer right. Part of what I'll be talking about in the podcast is I'm really curious about how are Google going to make anywhere near as much money as they do from advertising if they're all just serving up AI answers? So are we going to see AI worry less about what is the best answer and more about who's paying them? And that's a route OpenAI, who make ChatGPT, have strongly tried to stay away from, but we'll see. At the moment, AI is wanting to know, which brand am I safest recommending? So this is something to get your head around, is does AI remember you? And by that I mean, if you find, and you can see it in Google Analytics, if you find that ChatGPT has recommended you to someone, does that mean, oh, woo, you're on ChatGPT's radar, so he'll remember you the next time, and it will mention you the next time, and then once you're in, you've ticked some boxes and you're in. Does AI remember you? And the answer is yes and no, and we're going to go through that to help you understand how it all works. So there's two sides to it, two key sides to it. The trained model is a snapshot, picture of a model, obviously, that makes sense. Not that sort of model. But so when you talk about AI upgrading from 3.4 to 3.5 or whatever, or you can change the little drop down which model you're using, that's all about the snapshot of that trained model. So the base model, and that base model knows things. And that base model was trained on a massive data set at a point in time, and it has a cutoff. And that's why Claude will say to you, oh, that comes before I was trained on such and such. That happened before I know about it. Claude wrote me, Claude, I think is brilliant, but it wrote me something this week and said, and now in 2025, and I'm like, no. So they have a cutoff. These at the base of the model, there's a cutoff. It doesn't learn from every conversation, and there is no Stranger Things style hive mind updating everything in real time every time you ask something. So if you have said to ChatGPT, oh, what about this service? Would this be good? And ChatGPT says, oh, yeah, I've looked at that. And yeah, actually, you're right. That would be a really good tool for using for this particular job. ChatGPT isn't then going to go and the base model isn't going to then recommend that to someone else because it recommended it to you. There isn't that hive mind thing. I hope people get the Stranger Things analogy. But that's what it makes me think of. Like, is there this hive mind? And there isn't. So when a new model is trained, it learns from whatever the web looked like up until that point. So if brands have been consistently mentioned, cited, and described the same way, they get absorbed and used in that model. So what you're doing now, what you put out there on the internet about yourself, will hopefully be then picked up for a future model, and it will be part of that base model. It's not remembering you, it's learning from the record the web kept of you. So it's looking at its training material. But there are also retrieval systems, and that is a golden retriever. So that obviously is also the perfect picture. And modern AI products aren't just the trained model. And this is where it gets complicated to get your head around, but they're surrounded by a retrieval system that is live search, index sources, structured data, review citations, stuff, and also like vector databases, vector, all this stuff. You don't need to worry about all that stuff. That check the current web every time a query is answered. And this is where recency matters. And this is where your robots.txt file that says what parts of your website robots can look at matters. And that's where uptime and reliability matters. So every time someone asks AI a question, the retrieval layer may go and check the web right now. So that's why you've got these two different parts of AI. You've got the underlying model that was trained on the snapshot of the web 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 months ago, depends on how old the model is. You've got a snapshot of the web that it was trained on, and then you've got this retrieval layer that will go off and get stuff and look right now at what it can find. So most people imagine AI as one thing, and it's actually at least two things working together, and they behave differently. So this is just a recap. Sorry, you've got the trained model, learned from a huge snapshot of the web, has a knowledge cutoff, and it's not updating from your conversations. So that, for example, might know that HubSpot exists. I'm sure everyone here has heard of HubSpot. So it knows that HubSpot exists, fine. Then you've got the retrieval system, which sits on top. You could see it as well. That's how I sort of visualize it. And it searches the live web in real time, and it's constantly refreshed, and it's checking the sources every time. And that finds the best current source about HubSpot. So it puts the two together. The base layer already knew about HubSpot, and this one is looking for new stuff about HubSpot and finds it's all looking good, so it gets a recommendation. So does AI remember brands? The trained model has knowledge that it absorbed from the web. It knows that certain brands consistently appear across high confidence sources. It knows it's got well-known, well-trusted sources it can know about. And then that retrieval layer revalidates those brands when it checks live. So this is an interesting choice of words that I thought. The end result is that it behaves like trust has accumulated. It behaves like it trusts these brands. That's the impression you get. But it's actually closer to repeatedly, successfully revalidating them. So it might have this base layer, but then the retrieval layer goes off and looks and says, yeah, all this stuff looks good, all this stuff looks good. And we're going to talk about what it's finding to decide, yeah, all this stuff looks good. So it's not that AI, in the example of HubSpot, it's not that AI personally likes HubSpot. It's that HubSpot shows up reliably in the right places, in the places AI wants, in a way that robots can read and trust. And by right places, we might mean Reddit, because ChatGPT did a deal with Reddit. They get so much information from Reddit. We might mean Trustpilot. We mean high authority sites, sites that have got lots of credentials, or they might be a .gov UK, or maybe not for HubSpot, but maybe they're a national newspaper. HubSpot shows up reliably, so consistently and a lot in the right places, and in a way, technically, that the robots can read the page and trust it. So AI recommendation behaves less like loyalty and more like continuous due diligence. It's just constantly doing those checks. It's constantly looking around. The retrieval layer is going out and checking all good reviews. Everything's still talking about it nicely in good places, yet this still looks like someone good. So it's continuous due diligence. Every time your name comes up, the evidence is checked. The brands that keep being recommended are the ones where every time it checks, the evidence still holds up. So you need to just be really working on basically the evidence about you still holding up. So what does that actually look like to hold up under scrutiny? It means consistency, and we're going to go through these things: corroboration, expertise, and reliability. So those are the 4 words we're now going to go through, but it's not a new checklist. It's not a checklist like those other things. This is almost like, it's almost the talk that could have come before that one. It's a step back, and it's looking at the main bigger picture of those are ways of thinking about what trustworthiness looks like to a machine that is doing due diligence on you. So the first one is consistency. And humans ignore consistency more than machines do on the whole. So imagine AI is your most pedantic friend, who if you iced them 20 cupcakes, they would notice the ones where you didn't quite do the icing properly. And cupcakes, because when I was putting this together, I was thinking about Great British Bake Off. And isn't there that round where they have to batch something and they all have to look the same? And then I've done a post about it for LinkedIn in the future about consistent cupcakes. You know, a machine will absolutely notice at a glance if some of those aren't consistent. Whereas people, it might take a little bit longer to like spot the difference or whatever. AI notices when the picture of you doesn't match across all its sources. So if your website says one thing and your LinkedIn says another, and your schema markup says something else, an old blog post from 2021 could describe you differently again. And whereas a human would like skim past that and would think like, oh, they changed that, or that's a bit different, or they just wouldn't like fixate on it too much. A machine might really fixate on it, and they might be like, oh, that doesn't fit the picture that I was painting about this person. Oh, suddenly I'm not so sure about what's going on here. And that the picture there, consistency is more important than perfection. That's just because consistency is such a buzzword at the moment around social media, isn't it? And that wherever you are, just make sure you're consistent. But this isn't about consistency in posting or like showing up on Instagram 3 times every week on the same days. This is about consistency in your messaging and making sure that everywhere you're putting stuff out about yourself, it says the same thing. So in practice, what does that look like? Because it's always handy to have some like actual examples. So if you've got old service pages live on your website where you had done slightly different positioning, you hadn't quite worded yourself right, then that's the thing. Odd prices and menus, hence me showing a picture of an old menu. And that, even as a person, we went to a pub the other day for dinner, and the menu in the restaurant was different to the menu that had come up in Google, and the prices were different, and there wasn't the things that the kids had chosen that they wanted and stuff. And so that wasn't good. So AI wouldn't like that, because it wouldn't know. If it found 2 different menus online, it wouldn't know which one to choose, and it wants to be right. So if it can't be right, then it might as well use this website over here that's only got 1 menu. About sections that haven't been updated since a rebrand for a while, or how many years you've been trading. And I think this is a real gotcha, because we've got this on our homepage. We say something like, well, we've been trading 19 years, but I noticed a while ago it still said 17 years because we hadn't updated it for 18. So maybe you should try to avoid numbers for that reason. I might reword that. Schema that describes what you used to do, not what you do now, because schema sits behind the scenes. So it's too easy for you to have got a developer to add some schema a couple of years ago, and then because you don't see it, you don't know what it's saying. But AI, that is really what they look at. So that has to be up to date. And something that maybe you call yourself a freelance web designer some places to sound cheaper, but then you call yourself an agency director on LinkedIn to sound bigger and more impressive or something. And so that is that's just jarring. If it's jarring for AI, they won't really know what box to put you in. They won't know what to do with you. So the next one is corroboration. Do other people describe you the same way as you describe yourself? And AI trusts what it can verify somewhere else. It's looking to, I suppose it's looking to shift the responsibility a little bit. It's looking for to back up what it thinks it's finding about you. So this is not just what you say about yourself, but whether the web agrees. So this is your reviews, this is Reddit, this is industry mentions, this is podcast appearances, this is conference talks, this is guest articles, this is citations in relevant places. All those sorts of things. Does the internet around you, or does the internet in general, back up what you are saying about yourself? And just a little note, which is in the first talk, citations versus links. So traditional SEO cared about link building, and well, you're not supposed to link build. It's supposed to be a natural thing that happens with the web, is that if you put a good website out there, other people will link to you naturally. And Google counts that as a vote in your favor, and Google held that in very high regard. But AI can recognize your brand or expertise without the actual URL, without the clickable link. So as long as you're cited, so I was cited in the Metro the other day, and they did actually give me a link, but I wasn't expecting them to. That was really nice. So even if they hadn't, I was just happy to have had my name in the context of an article about AI, because then that was a good citation. So this is why Reddit matters, and it's why being quoted in trade press matters, and why speaking at events matters, and having those talks referenced online matters. So if someone, like, imagine if you did a talk at something and then loads of other people were saying, oh, I particularly enjoyed a decent talk, blah, 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 on LinkedIn, then that helps, like, the signals. So, and this can be really good for small brands, because a small focused brand with an unusually strong corroboration and a specific niche can outperform a larger, more generic competitor. So if you your signal consistency is tight, your expertise is obvious, the founder is visible, and what you're putting yourself out there, and the citations all say the same thing, then those are really, really strong signals. Niche authority, consistently corroborated by the people and the rest of the web, can beat just generic scale or someone being big. The next one is one that we hear a lot about from SEO, which is expertise. So AI prefers demonstrated expertise to generic summaries, and especially with Google just going so heavy in on the AI now, all the stuff we're doing about AI is getting more, traditional SEO. Every other day, there's some reason that traditional SEO has died. But I think maybe that day has now come, maybe to start with. But a lot of it is still, like, the crux of it is getting the good stuff out there and still showing your authority signals. But what has sort of died off more, I suppose, so I'm not saying SEO has died, but what has died off more is evergreen content. The days when you just had to put up the best article about how to prune a particular sort of fir tree or something, because there are so many of those out there. And AI sort of knows all that now, and it can just tell people that. What it can't tell is your direct experience and your direct voice and your authoritativeness and your subject and you as a person. So the important thing, though, is that it has to be stuff you've demonstrated. So it's not just you preaching on about something, like unfortunately I am doing right now, but it's things like case studies, first-hand stories, specific outcomes, opinions, so giving your opinion on things, and nuanced judgment. So your sort of take on things, which I do actually. And we are we are very bad, because we're so busy, at updating our own website with stuff that we do for people. So as a new rule now, Friday mornings are blocked out for me between taking the 4-year-old swimming. So it's all a bit of a blocked in thing, and ringing my grandma every week. I have to do a case study for our website. So there's just something about what we've done at work that week, and particularly pretty much every day is solving different client problems, because people come to us with their websites just to figure stuff out and help them move it forward if they've kind of if they're a bit stuck with it or whatever. So because we're, like, quite technical, so we it's just problem solving, it's strategy and problem solving, and so every day we're doing different problems. So it's like, yeah, I've got loads of stuff to write about if I stop and think about it. So it's just making a case of, this week we did a page in Irish, and we've never done Irish before. We've done so many different languages, so much Russian and Mandarin and so much Welsh, but never Irish, and now we've done an Irish page. So these case studies should be this kind of things that only comes from actually having done the work. I don't think there was a note about doing a page in Irish, but still, some languages are there's more to say about it. So this kind of goes back to what I was just saying about the evergreen content. I'm afraid I got a bit ahead of myself, but the AI content problem is that there are now thousands of blog posts saying identical things with no lived experience, no opinion, no evidence, just restructured summaries of other summaries. And AI models increasingly treat that generic content with nothing new to say. They just see it as like background noise. So if you want to stand out, you need to put your own spin on it. And this is like Google's March updates that I did a talk on. They, again, I'll send the link to where all the replays are. The March content updates, they said they don't dislike AI content. They just dislike generic content. And so much AI content is generic. So as you can use AI to help you write it, but it's just got to be your take on it, and your expertise and your opinion and your views on it and coming to it. And yes, like I say, you can use AI for that. It's a different topic really, but get AI to interview you, basically. Say to Claude, this is what I want to write about. I've done a lot of work on training Claude on my voice, so it talks like me, like writes like I would write, so I can share that another time. But you can say, this is what I want to write about. These are my views on it. This is my take on it, my experience of it. Ask me any other questions that come to mind. Ask you a few questions. You say, great, right, I've answered your questions. Here's my answers to your questions. There you go. Please write me 600 to 2,000 words about that. Boom. Oh, in my voice, which I can tell you how to train it on. And then read through it. Always read through it and always edit the heck out of it if there's anything that sounds AI-y, because you can spot it. You can spot it a mile off when it sounds AI-y. And like I say, Google doesn't dislike that as long as the whole piece is good. But I think people dislike that. So, and yeah, your weird client situations are your best assets. So the stuff that only exists in your head is your best content. The messy client project, the thing that didn't work, the edge case that surprised you, that's the content that AI can't synthesize from lots of other sources that it can't just find online. So that's the sort of stuff you want to be putting out there. Reliability is our next sort of buzzword. And that is that AI retrieval systems are expensive to run. We all hear everyone talking about like how expensive AI is and how Ramageddon, because the price of RAM has gone through the roof. They prefer sources that are predictably available, consistently fast, and structurally clean. And I was thinking as well that Google's March core updates, it really hammered home. It was all about EAT, the expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. That was a big thing for Google in March, but so was the fact that they clamped down even tighter on the speed metrics of how fast your site should be. And we've got a monitoring tool I'll tell you about in a minute where we help people keep an eye on their site speed. And so many people that were doing fine took a nosedive, and they hadn't taken a nosedive. It was just that Google moved the goalposts. Google made suddenly what had been all right before was suddenly in the red. And now Google have gone so heavy on the AI. It's like, oh yeah, that's what you were doing. You were just getting us to make all our websites faster for a couple of months, so that then your AI doesn't cost you so much to plow through them all. So yeah, so AI prefers sources that are predictably available, consistently fast, and structurally clean. A site that's frequently down, so it goes offline a lot, or it's really slow to respond, or it's returning errors when a bot tries to crawl it. So it might, strictly speaking, be online, but it's just all riddled with errors and you can't really get any information. It's not a safe recommendation for an AI, so they might not make that recommendation, which has always been the case with SEO. It's always been the case that Google didn't like you if you were often down, you weren't reliable. Downtime has always been a big indicator for SEO, but it's looking all the more important now for AI. And also it's for humans, but it's for machines deciding whether to surf it or not. So technical reliability is a brand signal. Because what happens when AI comes back tomorrow? Because remember, we've got to do this consistency. We need to always be there for this continuous due diligence. Is your site still fast? Do you still have good structure? Do you have good content? Are you available? Are you crawlable? Is your schema intact? And it's not a one-time audit question. It's a continuous one. So that's when I bring on to just talking really briefly about the monitoring tool that we've got, which is, it's basically, in this case of AI, it's continuous trust verification. So what has happened is that we've made websites for 20 years. I've seen the same things happen over and over again for clients. even down to, this isn't relevant to this, but even down to like them letting their domain expire because they didn't check the right email address anymore, or their credit card expired so it didn't auto renew. The drama of someone losing a domain name that everything is based on, including email addresses, and then they can't even communicate with anyone, is bad. So we've made a tool that checks your website constantly in the background for everything for all these different things across the board that we know can be a problem. And it also, or that can crop up, things that can be suddenly hit you out of nowhere, alert you straight away, or the things that can kind of trickle along in the background, and they don't think they're that high a priority, but until they become a priority. So we've got a tool that's based on, like I say, real client problems, and it gives a site health check on speed, security, SEO, accessibility, robots access, and more, as well as constantly monitoring your uptime. And it emails you a report when something takes a dip, or if there's an emergency, so you know to investigate. And it's very, very nearly got, because we're sending them to ourselves just to test it all and keep checking it all. A weekly digest that tells you, right, this week, this is particularly good for agencies. This week, this website needs to have this done. This website needs to have this done. These are your top priorities. This is how long it will probably take you. This is what you need to tell the client so that the client understands this technical bit that you're talking about. So they're in English as well as the plain English, as well as in what the developer needs to know. Like, yeah, so this is how the developer needs it. This is how the client needs it. You need to sort that, because last week you were scoring 74 and now you're scoring 59, and that's a big drop in a week. So it's really highlighting what you need to do. So that's coming soon. So if you visit Site Vitals, you can get absolutely free uptime checking, or you can pay a monthly fee. And with the free account, you get a timeline. If you're on WordPress, this works with any website. If you're on WordPress, you can get the WordPress plugin. You plot stuff on your timeline so that you've got a record of when things went wrong. A lot of website monitoring stuff is detective work. It's knowing, well, if that happened then, what could have caused it? What else all leads into it? So yeah, go there and grab a free account, and you get, that's what I was going to say, you get a free run of the initial audits on your free account. So it checks, lets you have a good baseline for where everything is at. And the ways a website is looking for the ways a website breaks when nobody's watching. So a scheduled task doesn't run. There's no error because it just didn't run, but then you realize some emails haven't gone out, or a third-party booking widget that you're on there breaks the page, and it's not your fault, but your site isn't down, but it's all broken. So all those sorts of things, because a site caught early is a site issue, caught early is a 5-minute fix. The same issue discovered by a customer, a client, or your boss is a very different kind of afternoon. And every recommendation that the site makes you of what you should be working on is backed by a continuous timeline of your whole portfolio. So you can see on what dates things happened and where it's going. And it's all in graphs, so it's all easy to see, but you could just rely on the emails that come through saying, deal with this, or this is happening, but it's not urgent yet. It also accidentally, this is the last thing I'm going to say about it, it accidentally lets you do competitor analysis, because the majority of the checks don't require any code updates. That you can check the server now. We've added server monitoring. So for that, you need to put a little bit of code. Someone techie has to put a little bit of code somewhere. But if you don't use that and you just worry about your website, all you have to do is give us the URL. So it's just like a public visit, and we monitor all this stuff. So because of that, you could put in the URL of a competitor, and then you can see like when they start using a new tool or when they start shifting their messaging, because there's a lot about analyzing keyword density in there. So yeah, accidental competitor analysis. The thing I wanted to mention, because I've seen it on LinkedIn a lot lately, but then I move in boring SEO circles, is that there's a lot of shouting that structured data doesn't matter anymore. And the reason is, and you might have been like, oh, I hadn't even heard that, and I wish I hadn't mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it in case you have heard it, because there have been some studies by like, and I should remember if it was like Ahrefs or SEMrush or someone like that, and they've done a study and they found that structured data didn't increase mentions, or didn't increase discoverability. So this is the thing, there's caveats in it, and the thing is they only tested it on big brands that were already coming up, so it didn't increase mentions that were already happening. There's some caveats in there, and it's just like lots of comments like pulling it apart, because it doesn't take into account small businesses who aren't the big brands that were already getting mentioned anyway. And the big thing about structured data is that it's not necessarily about discoverability. It's about an AI understanding what you're about when it gets to you, when it can read you. And then there's this hazy middle section. Well, actually, they're not really going to talk about you and mention you if they don't know what you do. So when they get to you, when they find you and they can read your structured data, great, that gives them a solid idea of what you do. So that's about understanding you, not about discovering you in the first place. But if when they get to you, they can understand what you do, well, then you're ticking the box of being really clear. And if you're consistent everywhere, then you might get a mention. So basically, the reports are contentious. And just because they don't help big brands, because some reports have found structured data doesn't help big brands get mentioned more, there are still lots and lots of people shouting, but AI really does want to understand you, and structured data is how it understands you. And then you get onto the future-looking stuff of the agentic web in the next year or two, and that is crucially all about how your site is marked up and how clear it all is for the machines. So yeah, structured data isn't necessarily about understanding you. It's the reports saying not to bother with it aren't about it understanding you. It's about discovering you. But then also, Google did a thing last week where they said, oh, we're no longer featuring FAQ schema in our search results. So if you did structured data for FAQs, they're no longer featuring it in their search results. And this was like some big news flash that everyone jumped on. But Google hadn't done it for like 3 years. They'd stopped it 3 years ago. They just did it for, I think it was like NHS or government and health sites. They were just doing it for government and health sites. So this big announcement, we're not doing it anymore, was only for a really small section of sites that wasn't the vast majority of the public anyway. So people jumped on that Google it's not literally copying and pasting your structured data and putting it into search results. No, but but everyone's still in total agreement that FAQs are really important on your site for Google, and for robots to find out what you're about. They're a great way of asking questions which people will be asking and that AI and Google are looking for answers for. You ask the questions yourself in your FAQs and you answer them, and it's giving them great, clear answers back. So the headline was that Google has stopped this particular technique in its search results. And as we've heard now, it's because it's stopping loads of stuff in its search results. That was the headline, and it got interpreted by some as so FAQs aren't important. And then you get all the other SEOs saying, no, FAQs are still super important. They're just not being used in this particular way by Google. So still do your FAQs. So overall, the goal isn't to get mentioned by AI, it's to be the brand that AI keeps coming back to, because every time it checks, you hold up. So it's about consistency, corroboration, having everyone find you around the world, having other people, back up what people are saying you, and about just being really reliable and always consistently there. Make sure your messaging across everywhere that you're talked about always talks about the same thing. So then the agency opportunity inside of all of this, because I was talking to some agencies about how I put this together for them. If AI can generate websites, write content, do basic SEO, what's left for agencies to do? And the answer is twofold, and it is tangled up in everything we've talked about, but you add your expertise. Obviously, the obvious answer to that is you add your expertise to everything that AI just generated in 2 minutes. So yes, I use ChatGPT to do that design prompt, and it gave me 2 options, and I'll tell the client why I think one is better than the other, why there's something in the design that wouldn't work for their brand. But it's still a great starting point. It's still made that job a lot cheaper and easier for the client, and they will use that budget with me on a different task another day. So I'm not worried that I lost the money. I just know that I used AI to help fill this task quicker, and I could then bring my knowledge of their company and human nature and UX and everything to the table with it. But then also you can help clients with their strategy. So help them know what they're talking about and shout that from the rooftops, and help them make sure their messaging is consistent technically as well as in marketing material. And agencies need to practice what they preach. Basically, I need to go through all our website copy and overhaul it. And it's the hardest thing, is to find time for your own stuff when you're doing stuff for clients, but I need to make time for it. But the other important thing is that websites need to become machine usable environments. That is where we're going. That's where the semantic web is going. Websites need to be machine usable environments. We're having a new audience basically is coming to websites. A new set of users is coming to websites, and they are robots. So that's what we'll be talking about in future talks. If you've got any questions about anything, please leave a comment on any Instagram or LinkedIn post, and I'll send links around to this, and don't forget to follow me on there. And I really hope you found this talk useful, and I'd love it if you could leave us a Google review. If you came to the Google March updates talk, you'll know how you shouldn't name people in Google reviews. So I can't ask you to leave me a review. I could ask you to leave 18A a review. Yeah, and so that is me. Let me just stop sharing. Cool. Has anyone got any questions? And let me just, I should just put this link in here. 1 second. Sorry. If anyone did want to leave a review, I'll just pop it in chat now. Oh, there we go. Right, cool. I can see how this relates to those who coach, offer services, but as a small product-based business, I don't do talks or case studies. So how does this apply to us? And I will look at your website and, well, actually, can you put your URL in? Because then it will help everyone if I say that. If you can pop your URL in the chat, then I'll reply to that and everyone. Super local business, which is another factor. What's your Insta handle? Thank you very much. That is Insta Talking Web, but I'm also on LinkedIn more nowadays. Do find me on there, and please say hi. Drop me a message and say hi. Could you clarify what you meant by not being named in Google reviews? People name us all the time. Is that bad? So no. So oh god, I hope I hit record. I so hope I hit record. Yeah, no, I did. I can see the little red button, so that's good. I'm glad it felt like a lot, because I was worried that this one was the step back, bigger picture stuff, and I prefer to give you the little to-do lists. So good. What do you mean by not being named in Google reviews? So I can send you the link, admin at Hotbox. What that means is Google asked for people not to use individuals' names in Google reviews. So rather than say, Lisa was great today, you'd say, really enjoyed the talk by 18A today, blah, blah, blah. So you use the company name. I think that if people are naming you individually, I think Google will be sensible with that. What it's trying to avoid, what the theory is that it's trying to avoid, is, say, in a restaurant chain, when the restaurant has said to all its 17-year-old waiters and waitresses, you'll get a bonus if you get a lot of Google reviews. So they just go and put it on their mates' WhatsApp group at college saying, oh, please leave a review here and make sure you name me and my boss will give me a bonus. That's what it doesn't want to do. Everything Google has changed about its reviews are around, and there's a whole list of them, and I'll send you a link. What they're trying to do is just stop spam reviews and make reviews legitimate. So if you occasionally have the odd person mention your name, that's legitimate. So I think that's fine. I think all the rules you just have to take with a pinch of salt and hope that Google will be sensible. Cool. Oh, there we go. Really interesting algorithm. Thanks, Meghna. It's me. My website is Hotbox Pottery. Okay, thank you. I think it would be great. Hopefully Google will see that it's just the names of me and my partner being mentioned who run the business. Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Hotbox Pottery. So if there is anything you could do to guest blog, so if you could find other places that do what you do but not in your area, and you could offer them a guest blog post or like a little tutorial or a how to get this effect if you had a home kiln and you were doing something at home yourself. If there was some like pottery crafting blog for people who have home kilns and stuff, and if you could write on there and say about this is the sort of thing I do in my workshops or in my studio, but this is how you would do it if you were doing it from home. But you put that on another big famous blog, popular blog, that would be corroboration. It's seeing you around everywhere else. If there were any kind of events, so like our village has like a creative festival, if you got involved with any local creativity festivals and you knew that they were going to have lots of they were like bothered on social media, so you knew that they were going to mention who else was helping with it and who else was involved with it. If you could do any sort of joint collaborations with any painters or anything, if you're on social media. So this is just trying to think of stuff off the top of my head, but I'll try and think of some more and I'll drop some emails over it now and I'll look yours up as well. I've just checked you haven't put that in there. No, she might have gone now. Let me have a look at the names. Yeah, I think she. Oh no, that was there. Weaving Hope. Sorry, there it is. Right. This is fair trade toys and gifts for children. So fair trade, you go down that route, you find lots of different blogs talking about manufacturing in different places and good practices. And so you write blogs for them. You try and talk on things. You try and get to be a speaker at like Top Draw and things like that, like child. Like the sort of big events that manufacturers go to, buyers go to. That's the word I'm looking for, because they're always all over. They're already always pushed everywhere. Those big events. You try and put together for magazines, even, or for smaller blogs. You put together my top 10 buys for fair trade kids presents for kids this year. So yes, it's the sort of stuff you could do on your blog. But it's also, if you can do it on other people's blogs, that's where the corroboration comes in. So then you niche it and you say best send kids, best fidgets for ADHD kids, best calming for overactive nervous system kids, and you try and do all of that. Green Parent Toy Award, so you go down the green route. So the fact that you've got a Green Parent Toy Award is really good. That will mean hopefully there's a website for that, and hopefully you're accredited on that. So getting awards, so that goes back to Hot Fox Pottery as well. If there are any sort of, and awards can be really time consuming and expensive, which I think is unfair. But any things like that where you could try and get an award so that then you get mentioned on their website as a previous award winner, different things like that. But I'll think of some and I'll put together a blog post about it. Any other questions? That's all the bleeps are all my alarms going off saying go and do the school run in 10 minutes. So that's good timing. Okay, cool. Well, thank you ever so much for coming along. I will stop recording and I will email around the recording, email around some links, and I'll hopefully speak to you all soon. Thank you very much for coming. Bye. Thank you.